Hello, my name is Natalie and this is my channel, The Feminine Frame. Welcome. Today we are going to be talking about what women need from men. Now, as a woman, you might wonder, why are we going over this? After all, we are women. Of course we know what we want in a man. But do we really? Do you have trouble getting a man to commit? Are you constantly finding yourself attracted to men that you know are bad for you? Do you quickly lose desire in your relationships? Do your relationships tend to end explosively? If you answered yes to any of the above questions, it might just be time to evaluate the men that you are selecting. Maybe you don't know what you want and need as well as you think you do. Let's take a look at some of the traits that women are biologically wired to be attracted to. Let's take it back, way back. Once upon a time when cavemen roamed the earth, life was a little bit different than we know it today. We were predators, but we were also food. There were frequent fights and skirmishes between neighboring tribes. Mrs. Cave Woman was physically smaller and weaker than her male counterpart. At her most physically fit, she was no match for these dangers. Now, imagine that our cave woman is 9 months pregnant. She was heavy and she was slow. She, in a very real way, needed to ally herself with the strongest caveman she could attract. This was life or death for her and her children. And it wasn't just tens of thousands of years ago that women needed the physical protection of men. Think Bronze Age, Middle Ages. Even in modern times, women face real physical threats in some pockets of the world. However, in modern Western society, we are very much removed from the dangers of roaming wolf packs and invading forces on our home territory. We might logically try to dismiss the need for a strong man. After all, we are strong and independent. But as seen by the standard that a man must be at least 6 feet tall to be worthy of consideration, the desire for a man who is physically capable of protecting a woman is alive and well. Now, I don't think that we need to suppress or deny our desires for a man who is physically strong. If you cannot possibly be attracted to a man who isn't 6 feet tall with a six-pack, that's your prerogative. And I especially won't think you shallow in that regard if you are a physically fit, tall woman yourself. But if you do take this stance, you need to understand that you are severely limiting your options for a successful relationship. This height standard applies only to a small percentage of men, and so you will face stronger competition for getting this man with lots of options to actually make any long-term sort of commitment to you. There might also be some of you out there who say, hey, I've dated men shorter than 6 feet and I wasn't attracted to them. Or the difference between my boyfriend who was 6 feet versus the one who was 5'10" was night and day. I know I can never be attracted to someone who is under 6 feet. But consider that maybe it wasn't their height that made them seem small, but some other characteristic. Perhaps he was a pushover and let you run right through him. Perhaps he lacked confidence. Maybe he wasn't in control of his emotions. Any of these sorts of unattractive features may have made him seem weak and actually physically diminished him in your mind. Now, I don't actually believe that most women are as restrictive as social media makes it seem. Some women may even go to the other extreme, settling for a man for whom she has zero attraction because he's a good man. Now, possible reasons a woman might take this attitude include things like low self-esteem, having a very practical view of marriage, or purposefully suppressing desires so as to not seem so shallow. These sorts of relationships can end up being very damaging to the good man who will notice the lack of attraction, respect, and resentment that his woman quickly begins to feel. On the one hand, we have women who are having trouble getting men to commit because of their high standards. On the other hand, we have women who quickly begin to lose respect for their good men because they were not selective enough. If you keep finding yourself in either the too selective or not selective enough categories, it might be time for some self-reflection and evaluation. We should aim to be realistic in the type of man that we can get. We should also aim to be genuinely attracted to this potential man. If you find that you cannot get attention from men that you are attracted to, then it is time to self-improve. First, you should identify very honestly how important physical traits are to you, and which physical traits are the most important to you for attraction. How much room is there for negotiation in this regard if he possesses other traits you desire? What are your non-negotiables? Secondly, you should evaluate yourself with unflinching honesty, your own physical characteristics and fitnesses. Don't sugarcoat. Really evaluate if you are a match to the kind of man that you are attracted to. If you are a physical match, it could be another characteristic that you are lacking that prevents you from gaining commitment. If you are not a physical match, you have 3 choices. Change nothing and get the same results. Self-improve. Put in the honest hard work to become the type of woman that a very physically attractive man would want to be with. Or option number 3, lower your standards. You might find that you don't notice so much a difference with a man who is 5'10" and an average physique. Now, we have so far just talked about the very most obvious outward traits of a man who is going to be a physically strong protector. But there are other indicators that a man is going to be a good protector. In our time of relative peace, this is especially relevant. How does he treat others who have a lower social, physical, or financial status? Does he defend you against rude comments from friends and family? Is he able to quickly diffuse tense situations? Does he keep control of his emotions when stressed? Does he treat you with respect and dignity? Does he have strong convictions that he is willing to defend? Does he hold his ground in his interactions, or is he constantly deferring to and placating others? All of these things are indications of whether this man is going to be a good protector for you, both physically and emotionally. There are other things that women look for and need in a man. The next thing that women are attracted to is provisioning. If we go back to our pregnant cave woman, we will see that not only did she need physical protection, but also needed help in gathering food and making shelter. She would not have been physically capable of the hunts of strength and endurance required to catch large game. She might need help clearing boulders from the cave entrance or hacking down trees. Now again, thanks in large part to the ingenuity of men, the lives of modern women are not usually so physically demanding. Between inventions like ovens and washing machines and the availability of white-collar work, she might very well be capable of providing for herself and her children. But that doesn't mean she wants to. The vast majority of the red-pilled women community desire to be stay-at-home wives and mothers. And frankly, this means that a man needs to have the financial resources to provide this lifestyle. That does not mean that you are some sort of superficial gold digger if you want a financially successful man. I think we have already established a biological case for this desire. Most red-pilled women understand that they might have to be frugal and make significant sacrifices to be able to stay home. She will many times marry a man who has no money but shows potential. She hopes that with her continued support and encouragement, her man will be able to grow in his capacity to earn, and she trusts in his capabilities. Even women who on the surface believe that they don't care about a man's ability to provide, on a deeper subconscious level do. A man who has earning power has indicated that he is capable. He has ambition and direction. It shows a level of dedication. It shows stability. A man who is willing to share these hard-earned resources shows generosity and abundance. These are all attractive qualities that women want in a man, irrespective of her own earning power. Now, there are really 2 strategies that a woman can take to get a man who wants to be a provider. You can find a man who is already successful, or find a man who shows potential for future success. In the first category are women who want the man who is already proven. She doesn't want to take the risk on an unproven man, and she doesn't want to have to make immediate sacrifices in terms of physical comfort. If this is the tactic that you choose, then you need to make sure that you are already the type of woman that a high-value man would want for a wife. You need to already be a high-value woman. This man has his pick of women, and you need to make sure that you set yourself apart from other women. You need to make sure that you are physically fit. You need to know how to dress yourself for the type of man that you want. You'll need to have your hair, makeup, and beauty routines that you are able to do consistently. Take the time to develop hobbies and interests. Passionate people are interesting people. Learn to cook some healthy meals. Have routines in place for keeping your home tidy. Become fiscally responsible. You'll also want to find out how educated the wealthy men in your area expect their wives to be. Are you articulate and intelligent? This may be required in some circles, but not so much in others. Develop attributes like kindness, empathy, listening, and communication skills. If you have any mental illnesses or insecurities, make sure that you are taking steps to mitigate the effects. You will also want to have a degree of flexibility. The man you are looking for is already well established. He will want a woman who is a complement to his existing life. He will not be keen on making large life changes to accommodate you. When you are dating men, make sure that your own hobbies, goals, and ambitions are compatible with his life. You do not want to feel resentful later for having to give up any of these. Now, this is very important. You will also want to make sure that you have access to the type of man that you are looking for. The most common way to date nowadays is through dating apps. And you can find great men there. But I'm going to argue that if you are able to find a man in the wild, you might have more success. My reasoning is as follows. Many men on dating apps, especially the most sought-after men, go onto the app with the expectation that they are going to have sex with you between the first 1 to 3 dates. If they are not successful, then they will move on. That is not a lot of time to make a connection and lasting impression on a man who has his pick of women. If you are able to meet an established man from within your social circles, in real-life situations, or from your hobbies, you have a higher chance of being seen as a complete package. He knows you first as a real person that he has some commonality with. He is also more likely to be genuine in his intentions, as there will be more social repercussions for behaving carelessly. If you are in a small town without many prospects, you will need to consider commuting to the nearest city or even moving to where there are established men. If you are unwilling to do this, then you might have better luck marrying a younger man with potential. Now, some places to meet men: go to the gym, join a sports team, go to some sort of regular meetup that involves physical activity, martial arts, running, take your pick. If you're at all religious, go to church. Go to political events, charity events, become involved in your community. Now, the second avenue a woman might take to get a man who is willing to provide for her while she stays at home is to snag him up before he is successful. Find the man who shows the most future potential. Be very clear up front that it is your desire to one day stay at home to be a wife and mother. Now, this tactic is especially common in certain conservative religious cultures where if you are waiting for a proven man, there might be no quality men left. In these cultures, if a man is older and unwed, it can signal a lot of red flags. Why isn't he married? What's wrong with him? The advantage to looking for a man who is not yet wealthy is that there may be less competition and a much larger pool of potential men available. Now, it can still be quite competitive, especially in the above-mentioned cultures. You should, of course, be working towards becoming your best self, but when you are looking for potential, you are both probably going to be young, and there is the expectation that you will grow and develop together. You will also give your man the confidence that your love for him is sincere, as you have been with him through all the hard times in life. When you marry a man who is not currently wealthy, you will need to expect that you might have to work at first, or that you will be making sacrifices for years to come in order to stay home. You will need to be frugal. You will need to be encouraging in times where he is lacking confidence. You will need to do whatever you can to take the burden off him when he gets home so that he can focus on building his career. You might have to sacrifice quality time with him so that he can build his career for your future together. So let's look at some characteristics that show that a man has potential for being successful in life. He is either getting an education and has a career path, or perhaps instead he has a business that he is building. He shows hard work and dedication in his current job. He has goals and ambitions. And even more importantly, you can see him currently working towards and achieving some of his goals. Even if they're small goals, he's working towards something. Netflix and video games are not his exclusive hobbies. It's fine if he does them, but does he have other things going on in his life? Is he willing to take calculated risks? He has basic social skills and works well with others. He is direct and confident. Now, it may be that you are already married to a man who is struggling to provide. I think that we do need to acknowledge that living on one income is becoming harder and harder. And life throws curveballs in the forms of layoffs and poor health. This is a huge burden for a man who wants to be the full provider but is not. Do everything in your power to support him. If he succeeds, so do you. To the best of your ability, take care of any cooking or household chores, childcare, and errands that you can. Now, he may need to help you with these, especially if you are also working, but the more you can do, the more energy it will free up for him to succeed. Allow him time to decompress when he gets home. Clients, bosses, office politics, physical labor, and work in general is taxing. Now, you are also probably very tired from your own day, but if you can just give him a half an hour when he gets home, it can really help his mood and by extension, everyone else's. Encourage him to pursue his passions and hobbies. A balanced man will be less stressed and perform better in his work. He will be more fun and interesting for you to be around too. And maybe, just maybe, one of those passions may develop into a larger income producing venture. And if it doesn't, who cares? It's enriching his life. You may find yourself tempted to complain about his earnings, compare him negatively to other men, or complain about what you don't have. In this case, it's time to stiffoo. Shut the fudge up and instead focus on gratitude. Be grateful for what he does bring home to the table and the work he does around the house. Be grateful for his strong character. Be grateful for his physical and emotional support of you. Express the sincere appreciation regularly. He wants to be your hero. Look for opportunities to be uplifting, especially if you see a chance to talk him up to others. If he catches you talking positively about him to others, it's the ultimate morale boost. Trust in him to take risks and handle his own work. He might have some failures, but don't disparage him for these and encourage him to try again. If we want men who can make money independently, then we need to get out of their way and let them do it. Showing your trust is showing that you respect him. And, of course, don't forget to have fun together. The stress from an empty bank account tends to seep into relationships. Make sure that you are creating regular, lighthearted interactions together. For a more comprehensive look at how to inspire your husband, I can't recommend enough the book, How to Help Your Husband Get Ahead. It's out of print, but there's a free PDF available. Our next quality that women look for and need in a man is leadership. A caveman who could fight and hunt was great, but even greater was a caveman who could cooperate with the rest of the tribe and had the esteem of his cave brothers. This leader amongst Neanderthals would get a higher share of provisions and had greater decision-making power. He was also less likely to take a club to the head from rival upstarts. He was a master of his own cave, and although he may seem harsh to us, his leadership ultimately kept those under his care safe. Can you guess what women still crave today? Yes, we crave leadership from our men. Now, I get that you might not initially believe me. We are supposed to be equal to our men, ergo, equal leadership. But hear me out. How many times have you complained or heard others complain about their man leaving dirty socks on the floor? How about the man who plays video games all day? The man who won't ask for a raise or change to a higher paying job? Or even, inexplicably, the woman whose husband does everything she asks, but for some reason she just doesn't feel that spark. These are all symptoms of a man who is not leading. A man who doesn't pick up after himself is a man who doesn't take needed action. A man who wastes time is a man who lacks direction and ambition. He chooses escape and diversion to improvement and problem solving. A man who is too shy or lazy to seek better financial opportunities lacks confidence or competence, maybe even both. A man who does everything his wife asks him to is a man who is forcing his wife to make all the decisions. He shows weakness and incompetence when he will not make his own decisions, take necessary actions of his own accord, and won't stand up for himself when his wife is treating him with disrespect. Even if a woman doesn't recognize this as weakness on a conscious level, her subconscious is screaming that this isn't a man who is not worthy of attraction. We are attracted to strong men. We look for physical strength, but we also look for strength of character. A man who is a good leader is a man who is mentally and emotionally strong. This is attractive. Let's look at how to recognize leadership qualities. If you are a single woman, then you will want to consider if your potential suitors have developed leadership skills. Here are some signs to look out for. He has a strong value system that he follows. These values should be similar to your own. He has a clear mission and goals for his life. You can actively see him again working on and achieving goals. He has active hobbies. He has an active social life and is respected by his peers. He shows discipline in his diet and exercise routines. He shows discipline of emotion when under stress. He has control of his finances. Even if he does not have a lot of money yet, he is still actively tracking and taking care of his expenses. He keeps his surroundings tidy. He manages his time and calendar well. He can stand up for himself and others. He does not allow others, even you, to disrespect him. Now, what happens if you are already to a man who lacks leadership skills, or perhaps over the years life or you have eroded him down? You are now wondering how to turn your man into the leader of your household. This is one of the most asked questions that I see women asking about on the Red Pill, so you are not alone. Now, the bad news is that my answer to this is so comprehensive that it would make this already long video unbearable. So I'm not going to go into much detail here. The good news is that you are getting a whole super duper long video all to yourself. So stay tuned. It'll be worth the wait, I promise. The next thing that women need from their man is security. Women need security. We have already talked about the very practical physical security that a man with resources brings. We also need emotional security from our man. Our cave woman ancestor would have been in dire straits if her caveman suddenly decided she wasn't keeping the cave clean enough, or if a younger, more fertile cave lady caught his eye. She would be out in the elements. It suited her to become keenly aware of her caveman's feelings toward her. She needed to know that she was in his good graces and her physical security was at stake. Now she passed on this hyper-awareness to the modern woman. We need to know that our man is pleased with us. We seek and crave this validation. A husband who gives praise and shows appreciation for the work his wife does within the home and for the family goes a long ways towards making her feel loved and secure. A woman also needs to know that her man is attracted to her and happy with her. We can complain all we want about being objectified, but when our man no longer objectifies us, we are painfully aware of the loss. We can't help but wonder who else might be catching his eye instead. If your man doesn't find a way to show you he values you, even if that way is not in words, then you are likely to spiral into depression and anxiety. In Red Pill lingo, you might hear this referred to as hamstering. Imagine a hamster running on a wheel and it can't get off. That hamster is your anxious brain panicking, trying to figure out how you fit into your man's life. You will want to seek out a man who is genuine and generous with his praise and appreciation. Be aware that not all men will express this with words. Actively look for other ways that your man might be showing appreciation. Now, one last quality that a lot of women seem to seek out in a man is a dash of excitement. In days of yore, life was fraught with danger and adventure. Life was scary, but it was also exciting. Our lives are very boring and predictable by comparison. Thank goodness! But sometimes our brains get a little anxious looking for trouble that isn't there. You will see this manifested in women who are attracted to the bad boy. He's bad, but he sure is exciting, and that is a strong draw. You might also see this need for excitement playing out in the volatile couple who is always fighting, or secret lovers who have a lot to lose if they get caught. In the manosphere of the red pill, you will sometimes see men try to dread their wives by progressively making higher and higher advances on other women. He is usually trying to manipulate his wife into having more sex by creating panic. You may also hear the term manufactured drama, where the man will pick some silly fight on purpose to try to provide an outlet for this excitement. Now, of course, neither of these methods are healthy or kind tactics to use in a relationship, but some men are doing it. I don't think that it is necessarily a man's sole responsibility to provide excitement, but I do think that you need to be aware of this need. And the good news is that this is something that we women can contribute to the relationship, in a healthy way, of course. Plan an activity you've never done together before. Do something physically challenging together. Try new and exotic foods with him. Try some role play. Surprise him with a romantic evening. Break out the board games and don't forget to get a little bit competitive. Go on an impromptu road trip. Start a new hobby with him, or start a new hobby on your own. You'll be just that much more interesting and novel to him, and you'll have a lot of fun yourself. Try something new or something that he has been requesting in the bedroom. I also recommend the Adventure Challenge for silly date ideas, and a lot of these are great, cheap ways to have fun, and you can do many of them at home when the kids are in bed. Strength, provisioning, leadership, and security. Those are the traits that we need from men to have successful and long-lasting marriages. Just like with what men really need from women, there is a lot of room left for personal preferences. But if you can get those things right, you'll stand more than a fighting chance. I want to wish you all the best of luck in finding a wonderful man.